Hello everyone. We have a game on the road to 2100 against Palma Chess 1 with an 84% accuracy by him and 91 by us. I don't like playing this guy because his positional chess is stronger than his tactical side, and so it takes a really long time to grind him down. It's very annoying. But if you can get the tactics to arise, he often will just blunder. I think I've played him maybe twice now. And look, he has plenty of best moves and excellence. He didn't blunder at all, neither did we. He made two mistakes, but so did we. So it was a really hard fought game. They gave him 2250, they gave us 2500, but I mean, if you look at the graph, you can see how hard fought it was for the entirety of the opening and middle game until he finally cracked. He finally just made like an auto move, and it was wrong. So we're black, and he plays z4. What's the threat? You may think it's dumb to ask what the threat is here, and yet you can't tell me the threat. Like if I say what's the threat, you don't even know what it is. And there is a threat, and that's the whole point. The threat is to play d4. Why is the pawn duo a threat? If you don't know that, I mean, then we need to severely back things up and go back to fundamentals. And there's no point in going further in chess until you understand why the pawn duo is strong. So anyway, we don't stop. We play d6, which does not stop the threat. That's why e5 and c5 are the main moves, because those are the two moves that stop the threat. All other things like c6, caro-kann, French, Peerts, blah blah blah, the reason they're not the main openings is because they don't prevent the main idea. So we play d6 with the knowledge that we will have a pawn on e5 or c5 just a couple turns later. So it's just a delayed reaction, a more hyper-modern approach. He plays d4. Now we develop for free center. He defends. You see, and now we have e5. It's almost as if we played it on move 1 because we get it in either way. So now we get it in. This is the Philidor. He defends. Develop, center, defend. He develops and pins our knight. Just development, king safety. Nothing crazy, normal stuff. This guy's rated 2000. You don't want to try any cheapos. And now we throw in h6, improving move, building up our position for free. And we're happy to see the trade if he goes for it. He doesn't go for it, and we play c6. c6 is center, development, potential queenside expansion using the c-pawn as a support beam, and its flexibility. Why? Because I'm not committing my king to the king side just yet. Maybe he thinks I'm going to play g5 one day. So I'm just staying flexible. It's still an even game, so he castles. And you could ignore these markings from chess.com and accuracy this or whatever. That stuff doesn't matter. I mean, when we get to the mistakes, we'll talk about those, but ignore the other stuff. Okay, we just king safety. Now he knows we're not going to just blast open with g5. We just have a very solid standard position. Okay, he develops the rook. I don't see a threat. So I just go queen c7, over defending e5 point and getting my queen off the back rank. He just solidifies his center. And now I play a6. Usually, like if you go back to my Philidor speedrun, I almost always, probably 100% of the time, went a5 instead of a6. But I saw this video that was interesting, like having all these 4 pawns here, just a different way to play. So I was curious, so I wanted to try it. So I went here, and he goes to stop. I guess he's stopping b5, right? So here you're supposed to play b6 and go along with that 4 pawns thing. But I played rook b8 first, which is a mistake because you're supposed to play b6 so that if he ever pushes, you can just push past and maintain all of the good points in your position. But by playing the rook first, now when he plays this, if I push past, he can en passant, and I don't have all the good points in my position because my pawns aren't connected, and suddenly I have an isolated pawn, which, okay, I mean, you can defend it, it's not that big a deal, but you would obviously rather not have an isolated pawn if you get to choose, right? So considering that, just go b6 if you're going to do this whole funky a6 idea. I don't expect you guys to start playing a6 or anything like that. I just want you to start to see how I'm thinking. Well, where did this move come from? Oh, he watched a video, wanted to try something new. What's the point of the move? Well, it's to create just 4 pawns that have a lot of flexibility and can react to whatever white does. That's it. It's not that serious. So we just go rook b8, saying, hey, we're going to play b5 anyway. And at this moment, he's supposed to go a5. That's why the computer says it's a miss. He just tries to do like a normal developing move and maybe push the pawn. But now I play b5 because I can. He can no longer give me the isolated pawn. He takes, I take, and here I'm happy with my position. I don't think I'm winning or anything or better, but I kind of have everything I want. I'm solid, compact. My rook is here. The a file is kind of meaningless. You can't really do anything on it for him, so that's why I didn't mind my rook here. In hindsight, I don't like my rook here because of this bishop, and although it looks like it has nothing to do with this, you'll see later in the game that it does. I just realized that I don't and actually like my rook here. You'll see. So he moves his knight, trying to reorganize his pieces, and I just develop a new piece towards the center. I don't have much to do in the way of going into his position, so I just need to reorganize my minor pieces to cover these 2 squares and get him in the game better. So I need something on e6, a knight or a bishop. I need to open them up. So I retreat my knight, which now looks at 2 different squares, opens up my bishop for 2 different squares, so it's just a very helpful move. He takes the pawn, we're forced to take back. He's finally opening things up. He hops his knight in, trying to get, it looks like a good knight. And one of the important things is when they put their knight here, it can be dangerous. So it's important for you to take that knight. If we take it immediately and he takes back, you also have to be careful with your central pawn. You don't want anything to be hanging, so you got to do everything in the right order. We develop our knight, improve it. It hits the bishop, it protects the pawn, and it looks at the f4 square. So it seemed like a normal move. He then voluntarily takes our dark square bishop, which I didn't mind seeing, because his knight's actually really good here, and black generally gives up his bishop for that knight anyway on purpose. So now we take back, and we're left with our good bishop, which can sit well on e6. That's why I also didn't mind him taking the dark square bishop. We're also defending our pawn, our queen's out of the way, our position looks good, and even the engine says black is slightly preferred here. So he retreats, and this was the reason I don't like my rook here, is this alignment. This alignment gives him a bunch of ideas. Even a few turns ago, he could have done some weird tactical stuff on this diagonal, which I didn't mention, but because it wasn't bad for us, but it was just available for him. So here, I make this move. So my clock's at 13 minutes and 18 seconds, and here's my second mistake of the game, right? I want to play knight h5, look at the bishop, and look at the f4 square with both my knights. But I know that it's loose, and there's this alignment. And I know there are tactical ideas of knight picking up whatever pawn he can pick up, and then when you take his knight in the center, he takes your knight and he wins a pawn. So I spent 1 minute in like 10 or 15 seconds calculating what happens if I go here and he takes this central pawn, right? And I realized that down all the variations, they don't work for him. If I take and he takes and I take, I'm defending. Or if he takes and I take and he takes here, then his bishop's loose. So he always has the bigger tactical problems than me. So I determined that if he doesn't have knight in here, well then knight h5 is a good move. So I play knight h5, and okay, it's not a losing move or anything. It's still, pretty much even game, even if he finds the best move. But the one move I didn't consider was the discovery that doesn't win a pawn. Because in my mind, in a quick game, you don't really think that deep. You just do very superficial surface level stuff. So you think like this: oh, if he's going to do a discovery on my knight, he's going to grab material while he does it. I'm not even going to look at the other squares. But the engine says, wait a second, there's this square, which although it doesn't win a pawn, you can't take the knight because of this alignment. And if you do something else, he's threatening to take this with a fork. So he did have this one opportunity to go here, and it's like I said, it's not winning or anything. We just defend our knight with our queen, with queen g5. He gets a pawn, we kick his knight around, and okay, it's still playable by black, but it gave him this one opportunity because my mind only calculated the pawn capture. Totally forgot there's a fork hanging here. In any case, he doesn't see it, and it's not like it's, +3 for white. It's just half a pawn, which is like normal for white. So he just makes some developing move that I was happy to see because I have no idea what this does. And now we just pick a knight. It doesn't even really matter which one. Just put one of them on f4, and I thought it would be nice. You could probably take the bishop, but then when he recaptures, it's going to dominate your knight, and I didn't like the fact that I would have to then waste time. That's the reason I didn't take his bishop. So I have my knight in here, figuring I'll put this guy in here, because that way this guy can always take the bishop in the future. Like let's say I'll take both of them, something like that. But you might have wanted this knight to defend this pawn. It's hard to say. In any case, this is fine. And for the next couple moves, the engine's going to tell me I'd made inaccuracies because it's really pushing for this c5 idea, which briefly crossed through my mind, but I was never sure if I wanted to make it, so my mind always just like looked elsewhere. I guess in hindsight, he never will get a knight here or here, so he can't hop in. This is defended, and you kind of want to get c4 in if you can. Queen c5. I mean, yeah, if you can get both these pawn pushes in, and he can't get a knight here, I guess it's good, but you really want to make sure before you push a pawn like that. So I didn't do it. I played with my pieces. Okay, he just castles. And now, again, it wants c5, but I just moved my queen. I moved my queen so that my rook can defend this pawn, and I can support everything on the queen side. There was one other specific reason. What was it that I was trying to do? I was trying to do something, but I didn't want my queen in this alignment, but I forgot what it was. So he moves his knight. Maybe we'll see what my moves are here. Okay, so takes. Okay, so maybe that was it. Maybe I wanted to take the bishop at this point, and now when he recaptures, instead of having a dominated knight, I'll have the possibility of retreating to e6. But with my queen on c7, I'm still defending my pawn. So that was my idea. I wanted to defend it from the diagonal so that I can retreat my knight without it hanging. But he moves his knight, which takes the pressure off. So we take his dark square bishop. He takes back. Yeah, this was my plan. And now we hop back, knight in here, which can go to c5, right, which looks interesting. Because I really wanted to find a good square for this knight. So e6 is flexible and good for the time being. It's a completely even game. He's played very well so far. He's played well enough. He moves his rook to the open file, but I'm not really sure what he's doing there. So we just improve our piece to where his holds are. These are all holds, and it pressures the center. Again, computer wants the c4 plan, c5, c4. But I had stopped looking at that a long time ago. I'd considered it at one point, and then I stopped because I was never sure if you ever want to move these pawns, right? So I was very much focused on piece play. So I improved my knight, and I figured maybe I can get a heavy here and create coordination. He lifts his rook, maybe he wants to double. But I think it's a bad move because this square specifically allows us to develop for free. It's not a huge advantage for us, but it's nice to have. So we finally get our bishop out because it's for free. We connect our rooks. He blocks it because he doesn't want to move his rook again. And now this gives us the opportunity, since our rooks are connected, to just challenge the a-file. There's not much going on. It's an even game. It's a lot of maneuvering. He doubles, threatening our rook. So let's say force move, although you can move your rook. He takes. It's an even game, but I like my knight better than his knight. I like my bishop better than his bishop. Our queens are the same, and our rooks are kind of whatever. So I kind of like black a little bit. The engine likes black a tiny, tiny bit, but it's an even game. Okay, so we go for the only other available open file with our rook. And now, you see, and this is why I don't like pushing pawns haphazardly, because they may collapse their position. So I specifically didn't push c5 on multiple occasions, just in case. And this guy pushes c4, and you see, immediately, now we have just a better position, because he blocked his own pieces severely with this move, and we have a great response to this move. I mean, what does it threaten? It threatens the pawn. It threatens to open up the position, to open up the c4 square for his pieces, which would be great for him. But we have this obvious response, b4, just saying you're not going to open anything, and now your pieces are stuck. And if he could somehow attack this pawn immediately and win it, that would be good for him, but that's obviously not a thing. So the fact that we get to do this means, okay, I was happy when I saw this. This is clearly good for black, as my pieces are going to be much more active than his. And because he just pushed this c-pawn, he created that hole that I was trying to avoid creating. So now I notice I can just put my knight here, great position. And then the c-pawn on c5 protecting, and I should be positionally winning. Then he moves his knight here, and I'm like, okay, his knight's the only piece that can defend the dark squares. Let me just get rid of it for my bishop, and then when he takes back, I'll just go knight e6, knight d4, c5, and I'll have a typical good knight versus bad bishop scenario. And I'll be winning. So I put my bishop here, and it's -2 at this point, all because of this pawn move. That's why I keep telling you to be careful with pawn moves. Okay, so I don't know what the best move is for white, but I knew when he did this that this had to be a terrible move. Because even if you don't want me to trade, like, what is this move, knight h2? It just doesn't make any sense. Because I'm obviously not going to leave my bishop here. Maybe he thought I was going to go here and he'll pawn storm me. Or maybe he thought I would go here and he'll go f4. I'm not really sure what he thought. But I knew when he made this move had to be terrible. But the most important thing was he missed the best move. He spent 40 seconds making this move, and he still missed an extremely obvious winning move from black here. What is it? I'm just making sure the move doesn't... Oh, it does show. Whoops. Okay, well. Bishop d1. Hitting the queen and the double attack. So as soon as this hits the board, as soon as I see this move, I'm like, oh, I'm going to win this game. But it was still harder than it should have been. But you're definitely winning. You're already -3. He has to move the queen. You take the free stuff. And the only tricky thing about it was his next move. Rook over. And okay, you're -4. You're totally crushing. But he's immediately threatening to win 2 pieces for the rook. If you move the bishop like this, I really didn't want to do this because, oh, well, apparently it's not that good. And he gets the pawn, he gets the battery, the infiltration with threats. I really didn't want that. So I was looking for moves. Anything I could do to not move this bishop. And then I realized after a little bit of thinking, I'm like, wait a second. I have this crazy move and I played it. Just rook in. His queen's trapped. I didn't notice it at first because I was like, oh man, I really don't want to move my bishop. So that's when I started looking for other moves. I saw this and I'm like, wait, his queen's stuck. So then I'm like, oh, I'm just going to win. He takes the bishop and the rook for the queen, which is only a loss of a pawn. He gets a bishop, we get a queen, he gets a rook. And now I have to convert this. I'm only up technically 2 points of material, right? So not a full queen, not 9 points, just 2 points. But his bishop's trash, his knight's trash, and we have this pawn so close, has to be pretty easy for us. So I make the most natural move, which is going to one of these two open files, so your strongest piece can infiltrate. I choose the A file to support my pawn, of course. He brings the knight back in the game. And okay, you're winning with every single move. My plan is to just push my pawns and my queen and my knight. But he has this. Of course you're still winning, but I insta-move f6. Not even 3 seconds I play this. Just because I know when I have this, not only can my king come in faster through the diagonal, but he never has anything. And now I could just, with my eyes closed, proceed with my plan. So he moves the knight, and I couldn't care less because these squares don't mean anything. I take the free stuff in the center, not because I want the pawn, but because this knight's going to support the queening square and the pawn. He moves his rook, and again, you have infinite moves to win. You're -6, but he wants this random check, and then when you go somewhere, he wants his knight in here, and then to coordinate, and it's totally fine for black. You can literally just run with your king. But I said, you know what? Because I like to demoralize my opponents, I'm just going to bring my queen back, say, you can't even get your rook in. You're just waiting to lose. Why don't you resign? He hops his knight in anyway. I play this move I've been wanting to play just because it's aesthetically pleasing, but unnecessary. Giving you a connected pass pawn, which is just super strong. He moves his rook in, which doesn't create any threats. I bring my king up. I'm just slow rolling it. You could try to promote your pawn quickly, but I'm just maintaining full control of the position, telling him he has nothing to do. He now improves his bishop and hits the knight. We move the knight and hit the rook. He moves the rook, and now I start to promote. Why not? His pieces kind of got stuck. He can't go backwards. The knight is now supporting. So it's like I have all the things I need to perfectly push 1, 2, 3, no problem. He goes here, but I know he can't stop my pawn, right? Okay, so there's this very smart idea here. So you want to push your pawn. He can't stop it with the rook because you'll take. But he can put his bishop on c2 and you don't get a queen. So I threw in this funny move, e4, which hits the bishop right away. And now he doesn't have that square. So if he stays on this diagonal, he just loses the bishop. If he leaves the diagonal, now when I promote, he can't sack the bishop for it, and I get the queen. So it was a clever move, but he ignores me. And I hit the bishop, he gives me a check. Okay, this may look crazy, but you could definitely just move your king. But I calculated, and you have to calculate accurately because you get to an only move. I calculated that I wanted the game to be over. So if I take this knight and he takes my queen and I push the pawn, there's no way for him to stop me from queening. Sorry, I told you the wrong moves. I take the knight, he takes my queen. I take the bishop, and now if he takes that pawn, I promote. If he gets behind this pawn, I promote the other one. So let me show you. He takes a knight, I take a knight, he gets a queen, I get a bishop. So I sacrifice material, but I know I calculated ahead of time he can't stop these two pawns. So he takes one, but then I push the other, right? And you see how even though I sacrifice my knight as well, he gives me a check. He tries to go behind it. And he does it this way where we just end up a piece. But of course it's completely lost. And this guy played for a few more moves for some reason until this position. Then he resigned. Oof. So it was definitely a hard fought game. Two mistakes. I mean, okay, this b6 thing. I kind of already knew you're supposed to go b6 first. Not even sure why I went rook b8. I was just testing some stuff. Knight h5. This was just a clear oversight. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't play knight h5 if I saw that. Not that it's so bad, but I wouldn't want to have to deal with the lines. So good luck in your chess. I will see you in the next one.